Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined as always by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, dregs, despicables, chumps, Neanderthals, semi-fascists, maggots, and of course those dog-faced pony soldiers.
And we still may add something before this
Yeah,
2024
we're not
campaign.
done insulting us, that's for sure.
That's right, man. I mean, with all the stuff that's going out there in the news, there's got to be more insults coming.
That's right. That's right. They're not going to start liking us anytime soon.
No, not at all, not in any way, shape, or
That's
form.
fine. It is what it is.
Well, the brief DMV weather report. I'm glad I cut my grass the other day because it seemed like I hit the window before the rain came back. I didn't know it was going to rain again, for last couple of days there. But kind of, I don't know. You don't care about you don't care too much about the rain if you really have time to hit the links, though, right?
Right. As long, I don't have time to golf, then I don't. Whatever. But yeah, it's been pretty wet around here, and so it's been unlike, we haven't had a spring like this in a while where we had the legit spring showers and stuff. So it's a little bit different. And I noticed, grass is growing faster. Did we talk about this? We talked about this, didn't we?
I don't know.
Grass is growing
I will
faster.
vouch for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's more sunlight, and the rain is coming. Is being timed right, and man, like I'm looking out the window, and they cut the grass yesterday, and it's already tall again. It's already, it didn't last one day that it looked mowed.
Yeah, I mean, I was away for about a week, and I come home, last week, and I'm like, oh man, it's looking tall. It's looking to that point where I really hate it, because if it gets too tall and too thick, then it, sometimes I risk, stalling out the lawnmower as I'm pushing it around. And
Right.
So, I finally found that window of time where I figure, okay, it's dried out a little bit, because wet grass is terrible to mow. And, I did that the other day and everything like that. And I hit that just right. But it's like, yeah, I kept thinking for the time I was gone, it wasn't all that tall when I left. And then when I got back, I thought, boy, it had grown a lot. So yeah, every time I see this rain, I'm like, yeah, this means is that whatever my grass mowing cycle is, will always have to be sped up a little bit. The more
That's right.
rain, the more growth, the more cutting.
That's right.
I am, I have about maybe 80% of my lawn, probably I'm guessing by now, is what's called zoysia. So it's not it's a thick kind of grass, and it goes dormant in the winter, and it looks great in the summer. And
it take a lot of heat.
Yeah, and it could take over a lawn. It doesn't like shade, so if you've got shade trees, it'll grow up to that point of the tree shade, and then it'll stop, and whatnot. But it's a voracious thing, and over time, it's grown tremendously since we've been in our house. And I'm like, just take over the rest of my lawn, because if you do that, then my mowing cycles probably don't have to be as bad. I may have to dethatch it once in a while, because that's the other side of zoysia, is what it builds up. But I wouldn't mind less of the other kind of grass. Plus, it also does a pretty good job with crowding out most weeds.
Yeah, it does. It's a firm. There was a time when it was all the rage to build golf courses. The new golf courses that were being built at that time were putting in zoysia, if they could possibly do it. You got you get much north of here, it won't grow well, right? So you through like people here down south who were here to down south who were building golf courses, there was a lot of use of zoysia, and then it kind of stopped. And some courses, even like Lansdowne out in Loudoun County, took it all up and put down something else, because it's hard, it's tough grass to maintain and keep it looking right, and it's real vulnerable to the weather, and it goes dormant. So you get past a certain day of the year, your golf course is brown,
right,
and it's brown until it changes back, and it happens. It's it happens like so it's almost like God drops a big paintbrush down there and says, "Okay, green," and because it happens very like directly. Like one day you got it, and the next day you don't.
Yeah, that's why in the last house we lived in, the first house, when we got married, my neighbor across the street was Indian, and he came up to my wife at one point, and he was kind of puzzled by the grass, because he thought the grass had died, but then in the spring it looked great, for the most part, and he couldn't figure that out. I guess he had never heard or seen zoysia before, and so nothing went like this is this pattern, this is what it does.
That's right.
We used to spend a lot of time though in our old house though, because the zoysia is also it's really strong, trying to keep it away from the asphalt driveway.
Yeah,
because it actually starts almost like burrowing under. It started with kind of
making cracks and stuff.
Yeah. It's like, so right now it's like it hasn't. It's moving across, but it hasn't hit the driveway yet from either side. And we're kind of keeping an eye on that, but maybe I'll be dead by the time that happens. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, it's I'm looking forward to a stretch of nice weather, where we can really enjoy the spring and as we roll into summer and everything like that. So, we're in the middle of May. Traditional beginning of summer for a lot of people is Memorial Day weekend, when people hit the beaches, they go to the pools and stuff like that. But the weather has been just very up and down.
Yeah, it has been some days already that would have been good swimming days, and and then it reverts back to bone chilling cold.
Yeah, and that's why it's like, what am I supposed to wear today?
Air conditioning and heater in the same day, all the time this time of year.
Yeah, you're right about that. All right, news-wise,
first of all, breaking story on news. They've agreed to a debate, like since we've started, and I believe I saw it right as September 27th in Atlanta.
Well, the news story I saw, and I didn't read through it. I don't think so you got even more information than was that Trump had agreed to this debate, to two debates, one in June and one in September. But I didn't know anything about locale's exact dates.
Let me see if I can find what they have here. Let's see. And of course, it's been CNN headquarters on June 27th. That's all I see. So maybe there's another one later.
Yeah, there's supposed to be June.
But Biden has made a bunch of demands, like no audience is when the audience reaction. It has to be on a network that's carried so many debates before that no conservative network qualifies, right? So he's like making sure he has a friendly situation as much as he can, and Trump's Trump being Trump, he's like, well, I'll debate anytime, anywhere, so he doesn't really have any right to say anything, right? Whatever happens at this point, since you said anytime, anywhere. So we'll see.
Yeah, and talking about this, that this is breaking a decades-long tradition on presidential debates, right? This Commission on Presidential Debates has had this lock pretty much on these debates, and there's been a lot of complaints about the format and choosing the moderators and all these kinds of things, the timing of it, which generally happens closer to the election. Now with the advent of popularity of early voting, a lot of times the debates are now starting after some people have already cast their ballots, right? So what's happening here is that they're breaking that stranglehold there, and they're doing it early enough that before people have made a decision about voting. I think the June one, that's probably before the conventions for either party, right?
Right. Yeah, the conventions are kind of late. So the Republican one is in late July, very late July, very almost to the end of July, and the Democrat one is like the third week of August. So, Trump, I guess Alabama made an exception for the Democrats to let Biden on the ballot because Alabama requires that you name your candidate by August 25th or something like that. The Democrats would not have named Joe as their candidate by then. They have not endorsed him or nominated him in the convention. So they had to help him out. I guess it won't really matter. Alabama's not going to vote for Biden anyway, but they had to cut him a break to even get him on the ballot there. And he's still, as far as I know, Biden is not on the ballot in Ohio. They miss filing deadlines and so forth. And so as it stands right now, Biden won't get any votes in Ohio unless they're written in, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like, because I know you've mentioned this issue before, which is that it seems that somebody really dropped the ball on the scheduling. You should know when all the state filings are, and your convention needs to take place before that, so that you can go ahead, once the nomination is official, is go ahead and make all the filings that you need to do and get it all done. You hold one too late, it's like, that's on you. That's not on the state. The state has these things in their books. You knew this, but you
have a battery of lawyers whose only job is tracking down stuff like this.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So yeah, on this debate, you're right on Trump will have no one to blame on the debate if it doesn't go well, because he's basically agreeing to Biden's terms. But I don't really care about the audience thing, because I always think that's kind of contrived anyway. You can stack the audience one way or the other, and I just like, who cares? I don't really care about the audience as much. They're trying to influence people who are hopefully watching the debate streaming or on cable TV or whatever, regular TV. So that those are the people they're trying to reach, not really necessarily the handful of people that are in the studio anyway. So maybe the networks will have their own little focus groups watching it somewhere and then getting their reactions right after or whatever. But so yeah, Trump, I mean, I think as long if Trump can control himself, he can win these debates and he can continue.
Well, okay, everybody would say Trump can control himself, right? So this, all this is Trump's fault, right? Who is going to be the moderator? Is it going to be Chris Wallace? Because he is going to try to get Trump not to control himself. That's going to be an objective of Chris Wallace from the open moment of the debate, right? You get a guy like that, Chris Wallace, he's trying to ask that question that makes you explode, right? That's his shtick. It's always been his shtick. Can you explain this? And you just go berserk because you can't, right? I mean, and so he's looking for that. He's not going to give one to Biden. He could know 50 on Biden. He would not do one of them. But he's got a list of 50 for Trump, and he's going to try to fit them all in. So, Trump doesn't think it matters who the moderator is, and he may well be right. But, there's some of those guys, such as Chris Wallace, that he cannot agree to.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true too. I mean, the thing is that those moderators, they know it doesn't really take a whole lot to get under Donald Trump's skin and to make him, go. Trump is he's kind of an explosive guy. He says whatever's on the top of his mind. He does things. That's what has drawn a lot of people to him, is because he's unlike anybody's ever seen on the political stage. Yeah. And he can speak for hours at a time without notes, without a teleprompter. He can just do these things that no one really has done before. So that attracts a large number of people. So yeah, there's no doubt that they'll be gunning for him in that sense. Hopefully, he gets it into his head where he doesn't react maybe as much as he normally would. Who knows? But if the issue, and I think the public hopefully is smart enough too. Is like the media's got to watch themselves on this. Is that if Biden has set the terms, there is that one thing of it'll be very easy for conservatives and others to say, wait a minute, it's like this thing after it was definitely not fair, and you can make a lot of hay after the bias on the bias of all of that. Much more so than in the past, I think. So it's because this is Biden laying out the ground rules instead of the independent commission, as such. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what this does and where this goes. I'm kind of the Commission on Presidential Debates is. They're probably what happened here? The president just blindsided us.
Well, I mean, you kept not you kept not being responsive to the candidates, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Commission of Presidential Debates had its own agenda, and no one is voting for them or against them, right? You're not our concern at all, but they wanted to be our concern, and so now they're where people who do that kind of thing go, right? They've been sidelined. So now, the question becomes, though, who can moderate it? Who is a Jim Learer today? Who is a Harry Reasoner? Who could actually respectfully, credibly moderate and elicit questions, ask tough questions of both sides. The other thing is, like, do we really, is gotcha questions really what we want? You said this 5 years ago, and now you said such and such, and the policy implications of that are collide at this level and whatever. Is that really what we want, or do we want more Lincoln Douglas, where okay, so it's good to hear. But I would, I want this very general questions. Let those guys react. The two competing philosophies of how they would run the country. I'm not interested. I don't want to be able to remember who the reporter was later. I want that to be inconsequential. So when you're picking this, and that requires a person of stature enough on both sides, right? That both sides look at him and say, okay, I don't always agree with that guy, but he's credible, or woman. It could be one, that person is credible, whoever it is, right? Both sides say, okay, that one we can accept. And that's, I don't see that. Who is that person? Who out there in the media or wherever they would consider a worthwhile place from which to draw a moderator could fit that bill? Who do we both trust?
Yeah, I don't know. How do the liberals feel about Brett Baer?
Well, I mean, they would say he's Fox News, but he's anti-Trump. What will we say about Brett Baer? I would reject that as a choice. He's made a point of being anti-Trump and going after conservatives in these debates, I guess, to prove and dishonestly. I mean, he's been caught being dishonest about it.
So, I mean, he could be a Biden choice in a sense, because Fox News anti-Trump, right? I mean, it's perfect for him almost.
Yeah, it's perfect for him. It makes Trump denounce the Fox guy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get anybody that does anything from Newsmax or anything like that for sure. Yeah, right. Picking a fair moderator, that's going to be really hard, because I
mean, part of it is the contentiousness of it, right? The two guys, the clash of worldviews and all that. But part of it is there's not a journalist anymore with that stature.
Right.
I mean, I can't think of a single one.
Right. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that the credibility of the news media is really shot to heck. And as a result
jointly
of that,
and severally, all together and individually, there's not any of them that happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Pretty sure it will not be Mark Levin.
Nice try, John. Not going to happen. But but that's the problem. The thing is that we have been, particularly, over the last 15 plus 16 years, we have just become more polarized in that sense, is that all of these things, the media has split off. It's just like, you've got conservative journalists, you've got the liberal journalists, but who's got the stature? I mean, you mentioned Jim Learer. Yeah. Who's got the who's respected enough, by both sides to say, this is it. Right. This is like, that's right. This is exactly the point I'm trying to make, is that we are so polarized. How do we do this? I mean, I think it is virtually impossible. But, Donald Trump is so Donald Trump that it could just be really interesting. And I agree with you that, we don't really need to dredge up the previous stuff. I mean, the idea, the real idea of these debates, it should be, is like, let's talk about policy. I mean, in terms of what has Biden done since he's been in office? Okay, that's relevant. That is relevant. His policies versus, say, maybe what Trump had done or whatever. compare the two men on policy issues and what they would probably do if they got reelected. What is the difference between a Trump second term and a Biden second term, and make that case at this point. And you don't, no attack on Biden's age, that type of thing like that. That's not really going to be part of the discussion per se. Focus on the policy. I mean, I think people will see Biden's age come out during the debate. I cannot imagine during, I assume the debates will last for a couple hours at least, right? I can't imagine that Biden holds up very well, in a debate for 2 hours.
Well, I mean, they drugged him up enough to get through the whole State of the Union, right? And he was obviously high. I mean, you cannot watch that speech and not realize he was high as all get out.
He's got a teleprompter there. I mean, when you're being asked questions, unless this is another Donna Brazil situation or something like that, you're not going to know. The questions you're not supposed to know about him, right? So then you have, you've got to answer them.
That's the other thing. Tell them to send out here's the questions that are going to get asked tonight. What's the harm of that, right? Let all of America read it. Let them prepare. Let them. If you really want to have a policy debate, why is it a deep, dark secret what the questions are going to be? Because the reporter wants a gotcha effect to the questions, right? That's why that is. So, publish the questions in advance.
I kind of like that though, because that takes away that surprise element and does take away that gotcha thing. And then you're right. Everybody could see what's going to be on there, and they're like, oh, okay, well, this is good. I mean, they're going to ask substantive questions. The campaigns can then prepare their answers,
right?
But they won't have to talk about, but they're going to have to remember those answers, right? They're, if they've got something they're going to ask, and then stick to that, and everything like that. That would be really, really interesting to see, in a debate where that part of it is controlled. It's like, okay, just so that that the moderator is being fair and honest.
Right. And then, right. Because then you can say, you can get a teacher to read the questions, right?
Yeah.
You don't need a journalist at all. You can get, some movie star they both agree on, right? It doesn't matter who it is, right? Because you're just reading questions. You're not guiding this conversation in any way, right? You're just saying, now we will talk about this. And there's you can say, okay, we're going to spend 10, 12 minutes on each topic or whatever. And however that gets a portion between the two, it gets a portion. They're talking back and forth. There's nothing, oh, you've had your 20 seconds, sir. I don't care about your 20 seconds. I don't care about that. I want to hear the whole answer, right? I don't want this policed, and you can have a little tone. So it's not even the moderator. Bonk, bonk. Okay, you've done your 12 minutes on this. If you still want to talk about this, it's going to mean one last question at the end. Everybody goes in understanding that, right? That's fine. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually not a bad idea. That's interesting to think about. That would definitely turn things upside down on their head, to do that. But once again, because it is so hard to find a fair and impartial, news moderator, then you place these questions out in advance.
Take it out of their hands.
Yeah, take it out of their hands. That would be interesting. No, if there's no audience.
There's no audience. That's right.
Then that won't work. But I don't know. I mean, you could, it would be kind of interesting. I mean, if you had some way of pooling questions from America in advance, and then somebody, then they go through that, right? So send us the questions you would like to see asked at the debate, and then see which way that goes or whatever, and then take whichever type of questions tend to come up the most or whatever. There's lots of ways.
Make your list, submit it to both campaigns. Campaigns agree on what they're going to be, how they're going to be worded.
Yeah, I think that would bring some fairness to the whole situation and make it more transparent rather than how opaque it is at this point in time. Where we don't know, exactly what's going. That doesn't say that the answers will not and things like that, that there won't be some bombshell moments or something like that, because you don't know how the candidates are going to deliver things.
Right.
Biden may easily lose his way without his prompter there for the answer. And so, then that becomes, then you can kind of show the Joe Biden in real Joe Biden terms.
Yeah, that's right.
So that'll be very interesting. But in some ways, I was surprised that Biden pushed this forward. But on the other hand, I think he had to, because Trump had kind of thrown this stuff out there before, uh, knowing that he probably had an advantage over Biden based on Biden's performance overall, to do this. And if Biden didn't agree to do any kind of debate, that would have blown back on him and looked poorly on him. So, but I like the fact that they're doing this before people are casting their votes, rather than after people are starting to cast the early voting and stuff like that. It didn't, before early voting, you only had election day, so you did debates, between the convention and
late October, last week of October.
Yeah, and it was fine. That was fine on the calendar, but the Commission on Presidential Debates has, they didn't adjust. It does. So things don't make any sense to hold debates of anything for any kind of campaign in any area if people have already started early voting. You don't know how many.
I wouldn't say that like the first day of early voting ends all need.
Right. Okay. Not the first day, but I mean, but if people are having,
your point is well taken. Though it's like yeah, that's right.
Right, which is what Brian was getting to.
That's what I'm saying. You publish the questions in advance, and all the moderator is doing is reading the next question.
Right.
If it's already formulated. The candidates know what the question's going to say. It's they've agreed to the wording.
If you want entertainment value, bring in Howard Stern or Joe Rogan.
Yeah, right.
that would be very different. Or Charlemagne the God or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I mean, the possibilities are potentially endless in terms of trying to modify this. And depending upon how this goes, this could reshape presidential debates forever.
Yeah.
That knowing that, because once again, like a lot of other things, we have been so wedded into a lot of different systems that's how it goes. It's like, we've been doing this way forever, for 20, 30 years. This is the way we do it. Well, they have just blown that up, and said, yeah. So, if the Commission on Presidential Debates wants to stay relevant in the next presidential election, they better rethink what they're doing and look at this and say, if we want to, maybe we can jump back in, but we are going to do that model. But, it may be too late for them. Who knows? These debates could be a runaway success in the sense of how they do it. And then that formula is one that, the commission says, like, no, we can't do that. It's like, we're just too good for that or whatever, so we'll have to wait. We'll wait and see what the results are, but it'll be very, very interesting to see how this goes. Yep. All right. So Israel has made their incursion into Raffah, and to some effect, which ties into, Joe Biden wanted, he put that pause on, the weapons that we had voted to sell them, and yet now it's almost like, well, maybe they need more and we'll sell them more, despite the fact I said, I had my concerns about Raffah, and he upped the ante big time. So he's notified Congress, I guess, of his intent to go to a $1 billion range on this. And thoughts. Is this a little bit of election issue that he's looking at the tea leaves a little bit and saying, I'm starting to lose a little bit of my Jewish support, Jewish vote, Jewish base, and that I need to do something to shore it up. And 1 billion sounds like a great number to do it with.
Yeah, they're like, pretty much everything Biden is doing right now is about vote buying, right? The college loans, all this other stuff, right? Because like he's down to the point where it's like you got to push all the chips in the pile. They're behind in every battleground state. A couple of them are within the margin for error, but Georgia is not coming back. You're down 11 or whatever in Georgia, down 13 in Nevada. Those are states he carried last year, down 9 or 10 in Arizona. Trump's going to get those states. Now, you're going to have to win without those states, right? So now it's down to the blue wall of, the Rust Belt wall of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Now you have New York is like 7 points. Biden's ahead by 7 in New York State, right? Those trials are not helping. He's like 5 in New Jersey. He's 1 in Virginia. He's 1 in Minnesota. Those are big. And I don't think any of those states are going to flip to Trump, right? But it's going to force Biden to spend money and time in all of them, right, to shore it up, which they kind of assumed those 4 states were in the bag, and you can't really assume it at this point. So, a lot of this is tied into like how he's doing. And when he decided to cut arms supplies to Israel, and he lost a lot of votes. He lost a lot of people said, I've had it. I tried to put up, I guess maybe you saw the Michael Rappaport tape that he made, the video that Michael Rappaport made. It's very foul. It will really harm your ears to listen to it. A lot of bad words. But his thing is he had it. It's like, I was going to vote. He goes, I can't tell you yet that I'm going to vote for Trump. I haven't talked myself into that, but I can tell you that I'm done with Biden. Right. And so, in any time, like, he can go back and try to fix it or whatever. But, he's done some damage with this. This particular decision, this 1-1 tipped a lot of undecideds, a lot of Jewish people were trying to hang on for Biden, to the other side, or no longer for Biden. I won't say for Trump, but no longer for Biden.
Yeah, and RFK Jr. is still in the mix a little bit. He's got some.
That's interesting. The debate rules, they're saying, Biden, no RFK.
Yeah. But I mean, in RFK, he's gotten on a ballot in a few states that could wind up siphoning a few votes away from Biden. Could have just siphoned some away from Trump. People who are just like fed up with either don't really. The thing is, people who vote for RFK, to me, is like they don't like either Biden or Trump, but they really don't know what RFK stands for. So like, okay, that sounds good to me. He's a Kennedy. I'll vote for him, without realizing where they're throwing their vote to. But
there's a lot of like some of the DeSantis people. You're looking at like where did these conservatives come from who are for RFK? A lot of them are DeSantoids.
Yeah,
those are the weirdest losers in the history of politics. Like we all have candidates who lose, right? And it makes us angry and like, why doesn't the electorate understand what we're talking about? But you get to the point where you didn't win, so either you adjust or you try to win again with the same formula and. Sometimes the ground changes and you can win again with the same, with a formula you lost with before. But, you got to take into account what the voters say. And when the voters, DeSantis is like he got nipped at the wire, right? He lost by 40 points. So, many, many people who looked at these candidates said, Trump, not DeSantis.
That is an interesting thing about politics is just that, you've got these people who join and put their support behind a candidate, and they're just very devoted and ingrained to that candidate. And when that candidate loses, which they just never thought would happen, they just can't ever get over the fact that their candidate lost.
Yeah.
And they can't bring themselves to support the candidate that won.
Right.
The party unity, whatever, it doesn't matter to them. There's like, my candidate is the best candidate. The other candidates, I can never bring myself to vote for that. And I don't understand why those people voted for him, the other guy, and not my guy. And It's like, politics, this has been going on forever. It's like, there are winners, there are losers. You're not always going to be on the winning team for everything that you do.
That's right.
So, you gotta figure that out and decide, what's more important to you at any point in time. Interesting thing about the where Biden is, polling wise in a lot of these states is that he is polling below the Democratic Senate candidates in a lot of these states. So the Democrat Senate candidates it's possible that in some ways could win while Biden loses the state.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on coattails because, like, what happens in Arizona. Gallego, I guess he's a little bit ahead of Lake right now. So I mean, does Trump get coattails? Does he get enough of a margin in these places that he lifts? Lake McCormick, I guess, was within 3 in Pennsylvania, which is kind of surprising. That's another one that could get lifted over. Hobby, I think that's a tough sell in Wisconsin. I think of getting all the Republicans to the polls will help Larry Hogan, who's got his nomination, I guess, last night, and he's now going to run against Elsa Brooks, which I think that Hogan got lucky there. I think that Trone made some mistakes on the campaign trail. Obviously, it cost him, but I think that statewide he would have been a tougher opponent than.
Well, I mean, he basically had, Trone was amazing because I got a comment coming in here.
Right, I was too. Exactly. I was a Cruz guy. I had seen Cruz speak, and he really explains the case for being a conservative well. Right, Cruz is really, really good at that, and why you should think as a conservative, right? And I thought, those are the principles. And that guy running things, as smart as he is, as good as he is at explaining things, would be a real asset. But he didn't win, right? And so at some point it was time to say, okay, the guy who beat him must have something that I didn't recognize before. I need to go check that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I think 99.9% of the time, I'm going to vote for the nominee, even if it wasn't my guy. There has to be something out there where it turns me away and says, I can't vote for that guy. I mean,
McCain, I couldn't do.
Yeah,
I confess, I couldn't go there.
Yeah, so that those things will happen, and when you live in certain states where the vote isn't going to make a difference, which I hate to say, but where the popular vote, for national totals, yes, in the state, voting for Republican, voting in Maryland for Republican, for Trump is not going to make a whole heck of a lot of difference because he's not going to win Maryland. So I could take my vote and go somewhere else if I wanted to, and it wouldn't affect the overall outcome. But in the Senate race, it would make a difference. Now, Trone, spending $62 million of his own money. He wasn't, he was saying he wasn't beholden to anybody. Also, Brooks, definitely the establishment. She had the backing of, I think Van Hollen and the governor and a whole bunch of other people. But here she is, a younger black, liberal running a very black county. She hasn't made any major mistakes as far as I know. Nothing that's where she's really been plastered on. So, Trone couldn't go after her for that. Emily's List came in and supported her with ads under a thing called Women Vote, to try to counter Trone. But she had far less money than Trone in the campaign, and she won 54-41. I mean, she pasted him.
Yeah.
I mean, they thought they weren't going to know the election results until maybe Friday. They thought it was going to be that close, and she just blew him out of the water. So that in and of itself makes for an interesting race. I saw some things, I think a day or two ago, people who had early voted, I guess, or whatever, and had talked to the media, and people who liked Hogan, but they weren't sure they could vote for him. Democrats who had voted him for governor, but weren't sure they could do that again. They could vote for him for Senate because they were concerned about Senate control. Right now, Hogan has made it very clear that he is supporting a woman's right to choose. He's not going to be voting for any national, law on abortion limits and things like that. So, it's out there and whatever, but the Democrats are gonna, they're gonna pound away. It's like, the whole J6 and abortion. We need this in Democrat hands so that we can secure these rights that we need, and we keep America safe and democracy. Though what does Larry Hogan have to do with J6? Nothing, that type of thing. But Hogan, it's just he was a very popular governor. He is going to run up against that that whole problem of that the registration is heavily favors the Democrats. But maybe he winds up with another perfect storm. I mean, yeah, as a candidate, also Brooks she's known in PG County, right?
Right.
So her name,
right. He's known throughout the state. It wasn't a disaster when he was governor, like the place didn't blow up or melt down. And he's going to have a lot of money. And the early polling, I think he's 8 or 9 points ahead. So
and so we'll see. Like everything else, polling does not necessarily equal votes, right? I mean, polls have been known to be wrong. I get a little bit nervous in Maryland because it's like, this looks good, but I don't know. I have a friend of mine on Facebook. He's Latino. He's from El Salvador. He was a big Hogan guy in 2014. But today he thinks Hogan's a rhino and all this kind of stuff, and he won't vote for him. And it's like, Hogan needs your vote if you want to see the Republicans control just kind of that safety net that you're looking for. And I don't know, he might go ahead and mark that little circle or whatever when it comes time, in November or whatever. I don't know, but Hogan has got to try to keep together that coalition of Democrats that voted for him before, at least most of them, and he's got to win over the MAGA Republicans that are mad at him for abandoning Trump, basically for basically saying he and Trump are just they're just not on the same page, because there's a bunch of that. I mean, there was definitely a bunch of that on our Central Committee when I was on there. So it's a tricky path, but. Hogan has developed himself, at least in Maryland politics, from a Maryland perspective, into a pretty decent politician. He's revived his bus. He's got his, he toured the entire state using the bus, went to all kinds of things that had a lot of social media up on that. Those are the kinds of things that won people over and helped win people over, before. And, so he's got a shot. It should be a competitive race. Will he win in the end? I don't know yet, but we'll see. We're less than 6 months away, but that's still a lot of time for things to move one way or the other. And now that also Brooks knows that she's the nominee, we'll kind of see where she puts herself, and we'll kind of see where Hogan positions himself against her. Particularly. So those kind of things. But what I thought
interesting issue matrix in that race too.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting too for Congressional District 6 that April Delaney, the wife of former Congressman John Delaney, won the Democrat nod there. So she'll face off against Neil Parrott. So Neil Parrott's an old friend of of conservative Republicans in Maryland, usually chronically underfunded. Delaney has money, right? I mean, they've got a lot of family wealth there that he built. So it'll be interesting to see that.
Parrott's a good candidate, though. He made a run at Trone the last time.
Yeah, no, I mean, CD6 is a competitive district. You can win that. I mean, Bongino came within like that of winning that district. So they've come just so close, just a few thousand votes here or there, to win. So I would never give up on that, unless it's redrawn again at some point where it makes it less competitive. But I didn't even realize I got redistricted to District 8 because I looked at my ballot and I'm like, who are these people? there are 2 Republicans on there for the primary, and it's like, I have no idea who these people are. It's like, which means they had no money, no name recognition, So not that I thought anybody was going to be able to beat Jamie Raskin, but it's like, I'd like to throw up somebody who could actually give him a run for his money and make him spend money. Right. Man, that's not going to happen. So, and then Alex Mooney got wiped by Jim Justice, which was expected. Alex got about 27% of the vote. So Jim Justice looks like he will now be the next senator from West Virginia, and so that's a +1 for the Republicans there. So that they go into.
You only need one out of Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania. Who else is in this that's pretty vulnerable? There's a couple more that are pretty vulnerable. You only need one more, and you flip the Senate.
Yeah. So the thing is like that says that you also have to hold the Republican seats that you've got, and then you get, and then
if everything holds, then then Biden, then Hogan would flip the Senate.
Yeah. So it'll be very, very interesting to see. Inflation numbers came out this morning. These inflation numbers are all kind of all over the map. We're going to still get, there's other indicators that will be coming out later too. So we've had a couple indicators come out. One was a little higher. This one was a little bit lower. I think the bottom line still is that inflation under Biden has been significantly higher than it was under any other presidents in recent memory in their first term. There was a chart somebody had produced that under Trump, it was like 1.9. Under Obama, it was like 1.4. Clinton and Bush, it was like 2.4 or something like that. But Biden's at 5.0 during the time that he's been in office.
Trump was 1.4 when he
and here's the thing. That's right.
When he left,
it was right. But I mean, over the 4 years, it came out to 1. But when Trump left office and when Biden came in, it was 1.4. But Biden's on the campaign trail saying it was 9%, and I've got it down.
He's done that twice, and they've been, the fact checkers are, they're dutifully saying, "Oh no, that's not correct." But I mean, he just keeps saying it. He doesn't care. He either doesn't care or he's not understanding what he's been told about that. Right? Yes, it was 9%. That was your fault. You did that. And he's still, it's still, what is it, 3.8 now? 3.8?
I think today the CPI average now year over year is now at 3.4.
3.4. So, it's still 2.5 times what it was when he took office. Still after his great inflation reducing strategies.
Yeah. And once again, as we have said time and time again on the show, it's not just the fact that it's 3.4 versus 1.4 when he came in, but the cumulative effect of the increases that aren't going away, food prices, all the things that we are paying for on our daily basis, are up, 20% here and 20% there. Housing costs are up. Those prices are not going to go down. We're not going to see this massive deflationary effect where it's going to push the prices down to those levels of when Biden came in office. We have new floors, new bases because of wage increases. These liberals have pushed through all kinds of wage increases so that we all see these stories about, massive costs of, going out to eat, where the fast food places, which were supposed to be the cheap place to eat, it costs you a fair amount of money to eat at these places now. Right.
That's right.
So it's just not very, very cheap. I mean, we ate, my wife was craving fried chicken the other day. So I was like, go on the Popeyes app and it's, chicken for 5 pieces of chicken, 2 biscuits, 2 small sides. That's $12. Okay. Yeah. I know when I think they launched that app, you could get that for like $10 or something like that. The price is already up like 20%. And I decided I want to try one of their chicken sandwiches for a change. So, it still winds up costing me like $18. Is that the thing's like, this is a fast food meal.
Yeah.
That doesn't have that much food, but boy, it costs you enough money.
Yeah.
Right.
And Popeyes is not unduly expensive. I mean, that's
but I mean, but they, when wages go up, when your minimum wage now that you have to pay are now $15 to $20 an hour. And I mean, we go to Aldi from time to time, and I remember where they used to have these, sandwich boards in the front, and they say associate, like $12, $13 an hour. You walk to an Aldi now in Montgomery County, and I think it's $18 to $20 an hour. It's what they're advertising it for. It's like, who do you think is paying for that?
Right. That's right.
Right.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, it's like these are numbers that are built on a bunch of statistical models, and
right.
they all have different weightings, and so it's not really a fair assessment of where we're going. You have to actually look behind the numbers and say, what is it? What's really what's accounting for the increases and the decreases or whatever in the average? But yeah, he's right. Bob's right. It's that. It's really what you and I and everybody else, when we go to the grocery store, when we go to the gas pump, are we paying more than we did 4 years ago? Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And
and are we getting anything out of these higher wages? Because we're not, because the household income's going down, right? It went up $5,500 a year under Trump, and it's down about 2,000 or 3,000 a year under Biden. So the households have less money to face all this inflation.
Right, and all those fast food workers who railed for the fight for 15, and now they're in the $20 range or more, and thinking like, oh wow, I'm making more money than I've ever made before. But when they go to the store to go buy their groceries and buy their goods, they're finding that has been eroded by inflation, and
right.
so they are not gaining anything really at all.
They're in worse shape.
No, and by having their wages pushed up, that cycle has hit lots of other sectors. So it's, okay, I'm getting more money in my paycheck, but I'm taking that and I'm giving that to the grocery guy and the gas guy.
So, well, part of what's happening though is hourly wages have gone up, but full-time work is going down, part-time work is going up. Workers are working fewer hours a week and so forth. So, you may make more, your per hour rate may be more, but your paycheck is not necessarily higher.
Right. And labor participation really hasn't changed much. It's
down a little bit.
Yeah. So that that none of this stuff has really helped. So
right.
these policies really don't work, to that regard. Trump trial, we went from Stormy Daniels to Michael Cohen. I don't know if this is a clown show or what the heck this is. This is like, every time I see these witnesses, these people testify, I'm like, can this get any worse for the prosecution? It's like, do you really think that these people are going to help your case? Because I just don't see it. I'm trying to look at this objectively, but Cohen.
The other thing is like, what makes this a felony is that it was used to cover up a federal crime, right? Okay, so they still have not named what the federal crime is, right? And the defense and the prosecution's done, right? The prosecution's called its last witness, right, and arrested the case. Once the cross-examination of Cohen ends, they'll have rested their case. At that point, if I'm Trump's lawyer, I ask for the case to be dismissed, because you still haven't said, I can't begin my defense if you haven't said what I did wrong, right? It's my turn now. I waited all this time for you to say, here's what we're going to accuse you of and try to put you in jail for, and they haven't done it yet, right?
Yeah.
They haven't done it. They have, they're alluding to something that has not been proven, right? It's like the E. Jean Carroll, right? They didn't prove that. They want to say Trump raped this woman, but they've not proved it. They've never been able to prove it. And like the one time they tried, they failed, right? The jury said, no rape, right? And they're like, something might have happened, but it wasn't rape. So, then they go, oh, Trump raped her. Well, no, he didn't. You don't have that, right? You're close, but you don't have it. You're trying to use things that are not what they purport to be, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. Cohen is very bitter about his relationship and how things fell apart with Trump. So it's clear that, as he said, he wants to see Trump in jail, basically, right? So
Stormy Daniels, the same thing,
right? So it's like that's not a case for going ahead and doing this. It's like, is this the best Alvin Bragg and company can do? Is that they've got a couple of Trump haters, people who knew him and whatever.
A stripper and a convicted perjurer.
Yeah.
Extra star witnesses.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, if you're going to bring a case based on that, you have to begin to wonder about the competency of an Alvin Bragg. It's like, why is he in office? Why does he have that job? Because this is a disaster for them.
And they sent the guy from DOJ, Colangelo, up there to try the case, and make this happen for him. So it's like it's directed from the White House. So that all these cases have been linked to the White House. So this is, the current president trying to trump up charges against, his leading adversary. So,
in fact,
third world, junta stuff.
Yeah, I mean, didn't Biden in his invitation to Trump on the debates, didn't he take a jab at the trials too, at Trump and the trials? Yeah. I think so. It's like I saw some really quick report that said that, I can't remember who it was, some TV personality, one of these media talking heads or something like that, was shocked to hear Biden say that, because I thought, that's not what Biden should be saying. It's like stay above the fray and don't make that kind of comment. That is not going to help Biden's cause at all.
Right, because it doesn't seem that like a whole lot of people are saying, "Oh, as a result of these charges, I'm not going to vote for Trump."
Right,
that's a rare animal in America.
Yeah, but the real pièce de résistance is Stormy Daniels' husband, which I didn't know she had one, but he says that they will, if he doesn't get convicted, if he's acquitted, they'll leave the country. It's like
he'll leave.
He'll leave.
He said he will leave. I went back and looked that up.
Okay, so he'll leave, and not necessarily with her then. Okay,
right. She'll be available again.
She's making. I
couldn't help myself.
Yeah, she's making too much money.
Yeah.
She's made a boatload of money off of creating this whole infamy deal and all this stuff with no substance at all. So it's like, oh, Mr. Stormy Daniels. Okay, who are you?
And what are you doing?
Maybe he made that statement just so that it says, by the way, I'm out here.
Yeah.
Remember me? It's not all about Stormy and everything like that. So is Biden trying to out-Trump Trump with Chinese tariffs? He's
trying to take something off the, he knows how to handle China and compel behaviors. And, I thought I saw that, happen. And I was like, I think that train has left the station, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll say this. I mean, I think there's kind of a limit as to how far you can go with the tariffs. I mean, and I think that I thought we had kind of reached that with where Trump was. But
yeah, me too.
But Biden is basically doubling down, and I that actually may wind up backfiring, maybe for him and everything like that. All right, we're getting to the end. Take us out, Brian.
Okay, so let me look at my list of things to cover. Where is your list? What else was on the list? Oh, I know one thing. Today is my 20th anniversary.
Yep.
I'm married 20 years ago today. I thank God every day for Lori and her endless sense of humor, which is required to deal with me.
I was going to say she has to be a remarkable woman to take you.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I say about my wife.
Not run me off. So I'm very thankful for that, and she makes this all happen, and I love her very much, as all of you who know me know. Let's see what's on here. Greta Thunberg. Yeah, that's right.
And
that's right. Let's see. She's now a pro-Hamas. Thank you, sir. Yay. She's now a pro-Hamas protester. No one is surprised. The grads, I mean, the graduation, we're just going to have to figure out another way to do graduation. Just turn it into a party. I think it's too, serious and, unctuous now, just knock it down the intensity a bit and get it where you're not necessarily, people don't have the opportunity to do this performance art. You see the girl tear up her diploma and her hat at Columbia the other day. It's like, okay, there's your 5 minutes of fame. Good for you. But they walked out on Seinfeld. I bet that would have been a pretty funny one. And so we will have debates, and it'll be good stuff.
All right. Good enough. Close it. Herewith, thank you once again for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And God bless America. Happy anniversary to Brian and Lori. And we will see you again next week.